So there was a billionaire tax that was proposed by Biden as part of his budget. Now, he's framing it as, well, we're doing this for deficit reduction. I think that's debatable whether or not, deficit reduction should be the focus. It's that neoliberal framing of like giving into the conservatives. When, by the way, when Republicans are in office, they never give a shit about the deficit. They never reduce it. They always increase it. So they spend like drunken sailors and then turn around when they're out of office and be like, look at this deficit. Democrats, you should do something about that. And usually that's a way to get Democrats to embrace austerity, which in turn makes them less popular, which then gets Republicans back in power. But this is an instance of Biden's like, oh, okay, you want me to care about the deficit? Fine, well, let's raise taxes on the rich. So at least he's coming at it from that perspective as opposed to let's embrace, much more austerity. He's not doing anything in terms of social spending and increasing it, but at least raising tax on the wealthy is a better way if you're going to tackle the deficit to do that. So he releases this new billionaire tax. Let me give you some of the information on it. So first, we'll go to the CNBC article here. President Joe Biden to propose new 20% minimum billionaire tax. The tax billionaire minimum income tax would assess a 20% minimum tax rate on U.S. households with more than $100 million. Over half the revenue could come from those worth more than $1 billion. So they say President Joe Biden is expected to propose a new minimum tax that would largely target billionaires when he unveils his 2023 budget, according to a document obtained by CNBC called the Billionaire Minimum Tax. It would assess a 20% minimum tax rate on U.S. households worth more than $100 million. Over half the revenue would come from those worth more than $1 billion. Quote, this minimum tax would make sure that the wealthiest Americans no longer pay a tax rate lower than teachers and firefighters, the document said. The proposed levy is expected to reduce the deficit by about $360 billion in the next decade, according to the document. If a wealthy household is already paying 20% on their full income, they won't pay an additional tax under the proposal. If they pay less than 20%, they'll owe a top-up payment to meet the new minimum. As a result, this new minimum tax will eliminate the ability for the unrealized income of ultra-high net worth households to go untaxed for decades or generations, the document said. So Biden explained in his speech on this, as he was announcing this and other things, that apparently the average tax rate is 8% for billionaires. So to have the 20% minimum threshold makes it so that they're going to be paying a lot more in taxes. This sort of reminds me of what's called the alternative minimum tax, which it's a similar idea behind that, but this obviously is more targeted to billionaires and more aggressive. So let's go ahead and take a look here at courts, and because they break down what certain billionaires would pay. Let's go through some of these here. So Elon Musk, he has wealth of $256 billion, wealth in stocks of 50 or 60? I'm not, it's a little small. $250 billion. Estimated taxable gains, $250 billion. The tax owed by Elon under this system would be $50 billion. Then you have Jeff Bezos, $190 billion. Wealth in stocks, $174 billion. Estimated taxable gains, $174 billion. The tax owed is $35 billion. Bill Gates, $133 billion. Wealth in stock, $76 billion. Estimated taxable gains, $54 billion. He would pay $11 billion. Warren Buffett has wealth of $130 billion. He would pay $26 billion. And then let's skip down to the bottom there where you see Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg, $84 billion. He would pay $16 billion under this. Jim Walton has $65 billion. He would pay $7 billion under this. And then you see the bottom there. It says Biden's proposed tax would apply to just 0.01% of the wealthiest U.S. households and raise an estimated $361 billion in revenue by 2032. Okay. So now this is a good idea. You could argue, hey, maybe it's not aggressive enough. They should go further. There was some debate originally is he talking about the 20% minimum on income, or is he talking about 20% minimum on like net worth, or what is it? And remember, the system that we have now, there was a lot of reporting on this after the Trump tax cut bill passed, and I think it was 2017. Now you have billionaires effectively pay a lower tax rate than working class people. So not only do we don't really have a progressive tax system in the country. In many ways, we have a regressive tax system. So like for the middle class, you actually end up paying more than the ultra wealthy. And then of course they have all these loopholes and deductions, and they have an army of tax lawyers and experts who search for, legal ways or questionable ways to hide the money and dodge the taxes. We talked about the strategy Elon Musk used it's called buy, borrow, die. I believe that's what they call it. And the whole idea is you don't really take any money from your company, you borrow against your stock. And so since you're just borrowing money against your stock, you don't have to pay any taxes. So, and any bank would loan to him because he's Elon Musk and he's got a tremendous amount of money. And then eventually when it's passed on, that's why it's buy, borrow, die, it doesn't get taxed nearly as much as if he were to actually pay his taxes. So there are plenty of billionaires, plenty of corporations that literally pay nothing in taxes. There was that big, ProPublica piece that came out a while ago, which explained the quote-unquote true tax rate of what billionaires are paying. And some pay 0, some pay 1%, some pay 5%. And again, compare that to working people and what they go through. And, everybody, you're paying your taxes like a sucker, and these guys are getting away with not paying anything at all, or paying very, very little. And so this is an attempt to reverse that. Look, you guys know my take on this stuff. I would use all the above approach when it comes to this stuff. I want to raise corporate taxes. I want to raise the top marginal income tax rate. I want to do a wealth tax and tax net worth. And I don't think, as long as you're talking about, hey, you want to keep access to the U.S. market? Okay, well, then you're going to have to pay these taxes. As long as you do that, there's not going to be any capital flight. And even if there is some capital flight, it'd be negligible. It would be enough where somebody else is going to come in and fill the gap because people want access to the U.S. market. And so it doesn't mean every kind of tax you could possibly propose would be a good one, but it does mean a lot of them would be. And this is the way you tackle extreme income and wealth inequality. If there are plenty of people out there who are not in favor of more radical solutions, like, worker-owned co-ops or moving to some sort of socialist system or, starting to blur the lines or get away from property rights completely. The way to address this within the confines of the current structure of our system is redistributive policies. And so what you do is you tax the wealthy and you redistribute that to the population through, free college and universal pre-K and paid vacation time by law and higher wages. And to me, at this point, when you look at the extreme income and wealth inequality and how much wealthier billionaires got during the pandemic, how everybody else got screwed, redistributive policies are the position. I mean, we covered a story from, it was the Rand Corporation did a study that found effectively the top 1% or 0.01% has stolen $47 trillion from the bottom 90% since like the 1970s. Incredible. So if we just had the same pay disparity, the same ratio of like average worker to wealthy person, right now, the bottom 90% would get $1,144 extra every month for the rest of their lives. If we just kept the same disparity we had in like the 1970s. Isn't that crazy? And it's because, look, the labor unions have been absolutely obliterated, and we don't have many people in labor unions anymore. Thankfully, now they're just starting to grow again and just starting to push back and go on the offense as opposed to playing defense. But there really has been an onslaught and a war on labor unions for an extended period of time in this country. And of course, you have corporations and billionaires who've bought the government and rigged policy in their favor. And so you got our social programs have been obliterated. The safety net programs have been obliterated. Unions were struggling. Tax policy benefits the wealthy. And so there is class war going on. It's waged by the 1% on the working people. And so this is an attempt to get back. Now, I tell you all this stuff and give you the specifics of the policy to give you this piece of information now. Manchin has already shot it down. Here we go again. So listen, bottom line is, if you're not going to hold this punk ass accountable, if you're not going to do what needs to be done, which is tell him, look, we have your daughter caught dead to right on email talking about like price gouging people because she worked at a pharma company. Like, you guys committed crimes and you talked about it. If you're Biden and you're not threatening to prosecute his daughter unless he plays ball now, then there's no hope for you. There's none. If you're not going to threaten Manchin with a public pressure campaign, the likes of which nobody has ever seen before, then you're done. And of course, Biden's not going to do that. He doesn't have that in him. So every now and then he'll propose these decent policies and get them slapped down and then say, I'm sorry, can I please have my stapler now? I'll go back and sit in the corner and do nothing and get landslided by idiot Republicans in the next election. So anyway, that's the new billionaires tax explained. And looks like it's not going anywhere, which yet again is further evidence of just how broken our government is and how weak and pathetic the Democrats are. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal, Kyle, and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.